Looks like we are good to go. I just had a colleague after the last class ask how I was, like what tripod I was using for my setup, and was laughing hysterically when I showed the setup because it used to be, anyways, it's just on a bunch of books. So it's not fancy, no tripod. So tonight, what we are diving into is some shoulder position. This was kind of motivated by a lot of patients that I saw this week struggling with, this forward position. And it's not just the slouching, it's when they go to reach for something. A lot of this is repetitively happening versus using the rest of their body. So it ends up kind of wearing out the shoulders. So hello. So what I want you guys to grab is you're going to grab either a strap or a towel or a blanket, something that isn't stretchy. And we're going to do a little bit of warm up with the shoulders here first. So you're going to grab your tool here. And the wider I go, the more comfortable this is going to be. So you can be kneeling, standing, sitting, whatever's comfortable. And we're just going to go up as high as we can comfortably. And then we're going to go back down. We're going to do that a few times. You can kind of pull the towel blanket apart. Should be feeling that this start to get some blood flow in there, get some heat in the shoulders. And then on the next time, we're going to keep the towel up overhead and you're going to tip to the side. And then tip to the other side. You can also use a broomstick with this. And if you're not feeling it, you can always bring your hands in a little bit closer, okay? So now we're gonna grab opposite direction. So this one you may not go quite as far. Coming back. Just kind of let your shoulders go into the position that they're gonna go as long as you're not shrugging your shoulders up. Going back and forth. Keep those elbows nice and straight. And then once you're up here, we'll rock to the side. Get a little different stretch. Rock to the other. And then come back to the center. Okay. So now what we're going to do is a little bit more tricky because we're going to kind of make a figure 8 type thing. So I'm coming around and then coming back down. So if you start with your right hand down, left hand up, I'm wrapping it around my head and letting the other shoulder follow. I feel like I'm doing a fancy blanket dance. Come back around. And again, if it feels pretty junky in certain spots, just kind of keep your range of motion a little bit smaller. Let's do one more on each side. All right, towel can go to the side. So let's grab a ball. You're gonna actually want a larger ball for this one if you have it. If not, you can do little ball on a block. And so I'll show you that actually really quick, because what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be working kind of into the armpit area, chest area, underneath the collarbone. So the big ball is going to allow me to get my face, I'm gonna kick you down like this, so I can get a little bit of movement. So if I don't have a big ball, we use yoga block and little ball, okay? So I want you guys to start underneath the collarbone here, and I can use my other hand for support. Up a little bit higher. So right underneath the collarbone. All of this stuff can also be done at the wall. So as you're cruising that collarbone, I want you to take that arm and bring it out to the side. There we go. Rolling side to side. You can bring that arm up. Still staying right underneath that collarbone. And then let's take that arm, and you can put it on your butt cheek. You can slide it up, just depending on what's comfortable for that shoulder. We're putting our shoulder into a position that it doesn't hang out in often, so it can usually be kind of just uncomfortable to hang out there. But this is the fun and kind of the goal of doing a lot of this mobility stuff, is to put your body in different positions that you don't usually hang out in. Because then we can improve movement all over the place. Oh, hey, Julian. Okay, so now we're gonna go right on the kind of the inside of the chest, and you will notice you can kind of grab this tissue here. So we're gonna land right on that and just kind of settle into it. This one, you will sometimes feel it, that sensation we've talked about in the past of like clunking, so it'll kind of clunk over it. So we just want to be nice and slow. We're trying to remodel that tissue and get it to smooth out a little bit. And then you can play with that hand out to the side, rolling. Another cool movement you can do with this ball in this position is you can kind of roll your shoulder back and forth. So I'm using my shoulder blade kind of forward, back. Let's bring that arm up and overhead. So this will kind of sneak a little bit more into the armpit. If you guys are hanging out on the wall while you're doing this, you can come into the doorway, and that'll allow you to move your arm a little bit easier throughout some of these positions. And then let's swing that hand behind your back wherever you can land and roll over that chest muscle here. So you'll notice as you roll over that chunk, kind of land closer to your to the armpit here. We're gonna hold that spot here, and you're kind of under, you almost feel your rib cage a little bit more. So you're here, and you're gonna lift and lower. Just adding a little bit of movement into that. Lots of nerves in here. If you get tingly, move on to a different spot. I can also move my arm in this horizontal plane. There we go. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll to the armpit here. So I'm going on the back side, just like this. So here I like to use my hand to rest my head, because this just feels bad after a while. So I'm here, I can kind of set up my legs here so that my body feels supported. And honestly, you may not add a lot of movement here. This might be pretty uncomfortable. So we hang out here, we breathe, roll side to side. And you're kind of right where that shoulder meets right where your arm bone meets your shoulder blade. Okay, and now we're gonna go back to the back of the shoulder blade. So if you have the small ball on the yoga block. You can, that's what I'm gonna switch to because I know this is a tender area. So I'm gonna lay completely on it so you can get rid of the yoga block. And I'm supporting my neck here. And I'm just rolling back and forth. I can do a few bicep curls because that's going to change the position. I can also take this hand and add some rotation. So go ahead and stay down there. I'm just going to show you where we're going to head next. So we've hit this armpit and we're coming around here, and then we're going to go up. So we have this bone right here. We're going to go up to the top of the shoulder blade. So same position, but ball is going on top of the shoulder blade here. If I can get my rug out of the way. There we go. So here, I'm actually going to relax my head down a little bit more. There we go. So once I'm here, I can add some of that rotation in the hand, in the shoulder. I can even now move my arm across my body. I can bring my arm down by my side and lift up overhead. Getting into that rotator cuff group of muscles. Can even take my shoulder and rotate it back and forth. There we go. All right, let's come on off of that side. We're gonna switch to the other side. So go back to your yoga block or your larger ball. We're going right underneath that collarbone. So arm down by the side. Right underneath that collarbone. You can play with that arm position out to the side. Bring that arm up front. And then let's bring that hand behind your back. Okay. So now we're finding that chunk, that pec muscle here. So kind of settle on top of that. Feel it kind of shift over the tendon. Maybe you just hold it. Maybe it's really tight and holding it feels like the right thing to do. Oh, play with that arm position. Up, overhead. One cool thing I always try to talk to my patients about is try to pay attention throughout your day and see how often you actually move your shoulders and your arms in an overhead position. A lot of times we don't do it consciously. Most of our activities are down below. And then we go paint a room with our arms overhead for a weekend and we have an injury. So if we can get that movement throughout the day, go ahead and bring that hand behind your back. If we can get that movement throughout the day, we can start to remind our patients, remind our shoulder that it belongs up there. It has range of motion and function up there. And in order to have an optimal functioning shoulder, we want it to be able to move through that range of motion. So. She's having a tantrum on the bed right now. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna sink onto that. So you're kind of underneath that chunk. So I'm here and I'm lifting my arm. Back and down. I'm bringing my arm across. We can do a little horizontal. Okay, so now we're gonna sneak into the armpit. You are going to lay on your ball like this. And again, maybe we hang out here, we don't move, we just kind of lay on this spot. We can rock back and forth. Okay, we're gonna go on the back of the shoulder blade here. So I'm gonna switch to my smaller ball and go right into this little pocket here. I'm glad my face is not facing you because this is a really tender spot. So I'm just gonna hang out here for a second. You can add a little bit of that motion if you'd like. Heidi, come here. We can bend and straighten that elbow. And then this last spot, we're going right above that bone across your shoulder blade. So right up in here, I'm going to lay like that. I'm still kind of on my side, and then I can add some of that same movement. Bring my arm across my body. Go up overhead. All right, let's go ahead and roll to the side and come on up. So whether you're sitting or standing, my gosh, I am covered in dog hair now. So what I want to show you here before we do some movement, more movement exercises, is a stretch. So a lot of times you guys are probably familiar, relatively familiar with this pull your arm across your body stretch here. So there's no right or wrong with this. There's just another option to help target a different area. So when we let our shoulder blade come forward, we don't necessarily get this nice stretch in here. We get it mostly on the back of the shoulder. So if I kind of plug my shoulder back in the socket and then pull across, I feel this really nice stretch across the outside of my arm. No need to pull really hard. You shouldn't feel any pinching, but we're just pulling kind of you're resisting with your shoulder, but then pulling your arm across your body. And part of this will help us keep our shoulders in a better position. So if we're just stretching this, pulling across, isn't that kind of where we hang out most of the day? So if we can be back here, but then improve that movement, this is gonna just be just one of those areas you don't want to forget about. Are you done having your tantrum? Okay, let's switch to the other side. Hi. Hi. Okay, so shoulder stays back in the socket, and then I pull across. Do you want to teach the class? Just pulling across. We're going to get a little bit more into this joint here in a second. But again, you want to feel this right down here. Make sure your neck isn't shrugging up. There we go. Okay, we have to work on one more really fun muscle before we get into the joint stretch. Oh, yeah. So what we're gonna do here, I like to use thumb for this, okay? You gotta move. So I am going in between my shoulder blade and my rib cage here, okay? So I can be resting on a couch, I can be up on a counter. I'm gonna show you on the floor. So what I'm doing here is this is basically my mobility tool. So I'm taking my thumb and sliding it in between shoulder blade and rib cage here. And then, so this doesn't move. All I'm doing is sinking my body weight onto that thumb. So the thumb is staying nice and rigid. I can kind of move the thumb around, but it feels, it doesn't feel great to do that. So choose your poison, right? We want to be breathing. Can add some slow movement in here. So if you're on a table or a couch leaning, because this isn't a good position for your body, you just, you won't get as direct of a force because you're not necessarily directly on top of your elbow, but you can still get some good force. The idea is we're not trying to wear out our thumb and do a self massage. We're just using this as a tool here. Okay, let's come on out of that side. So next side, grabbing in between shoulder blade and rib cage. This arm is my mobility tool, and this one, my body is just sinking onto it here. Keeping that thumb nice and rigid. Let your body try to sink onto it. It's probably going to try to fight it a little bit. There we go. Sometimes you kind of lose your angle, so it's okay to kind of move around a little bit. Okay, that's enough of that. Just had to share that one. Okay, so now what I want you guys to find is some sort of weight, if you can. This will be, you know, it could be 5 pounds, 10 pounds, something like that. I've got a water bladder here because that's the weight that I have right now. And it can even just be a milk jug or something like that. So what we're gonna do, all my tools here, is you're gonna bring the weight. This is how you can kind of safely bring that weight up overhead, is you can lay on your side and roll like this. Okay, so I've got my shoulder here. The weight is actually pushing down into my arm. So what I want you guys to get a feel for here is you're gonna punch up. Nope, Aini, come here. Come here. Come here. Come, move. I know, move. Okay. Sorry about that. So you're gonna punch up and then pull it down. Elbow's gonna stay nice and straight. Pull down. So I'm just doing this tiny, tiny little movement. And then what I want you to feel for is kind of sink back into the shoulder here. So as I hold this, I might start to feel a stretch in the back of my shoulder because this weight is pushing, it's helping to push my shoulder back in the socket. So this is ideally where we want it to be throughout the day when we're in kind of static positions. So getting this nice stretch, and it may take a second for you to get that feeling of kind of pushing down without bending your elbow. So elbow stays nice and locked and just letting it push down here. So as I hang out here, I can slowly, slowly start to feel my muscles not let go, but they're just allowing that shoulder to sink back in the socket. So as long as you can safely bring the weight up, heavier is sometimes a little bit better because it gets that kind of drive down. So this is about 15 pounds that I'm holding right now. It's also water, so it's a little bit challenging. Okay, so to come on out here, I can use my other shoulder, roll to the side, and then I'm gonna switch to the other side. So I'm here on my side. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go through a few of those punching motions first. So I'm pushing up and then down. So you get a kind of a feel for where we may hang out too much and where we wanna be back here. So up, forward, back, down. And then let's hang out back down. So let that weight sink back down into the shoulder blade, into the back of the shoulder. And really feel this one in the back of the joint. And what's interesting, so maybe not interesting, that's not the right word, but most people have not done a joint stretch before. So what we're doing is more of a joint stretch than actual muscle. So just kind of welcome those new sensations in. It might not feel super intense. We want to avoid that pain. But if it's just discomfort because it's new, try to work with that and just breathe through it. So again, my shoulder is slowly sinking back down. And just kind of melting into the stretch. All right, so I'm gonna slowly lower this weight down, roll to the side, and just take your towel here, do a few little pass-throughs like we did in the beginning. Oh yeah. Shoulders feel ready, loose, in a good position. So what I want you guys, this is my challenge to myself this week, so I thought it would be fun to share with you guys. I'm keeping a stretchy exercise band at my desk, and I'm gonna put it in a spot where I can kind of see it, so that when I get lost in my computer and really just need a break, I'm gonna be doing some exercises with this band, just standing at the desk. So it's maybe like a 30-second to minute break. But all I'm gonna be doing is taking the band and pulling it apart. So maybe literally just set a timer, 30 seconds, maybe just do 10 reps. You can do different heights. Remember that overhead position. You can turn your palms the other way too. But this is just stuff that I'm gonna be playing with this week. So if you wanna join me in my challenge and just take a couple breaks throughout the day and get those shoulders moving in different positions. Thanks for hanging out. On Friday classes are gone for right now because I'm seeing patients, but Sundays are still continuing as well as Wednesday evening. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard, and please keep letting me know if you have any requests. Have a good evening. I'll see you Wednesday.